Hey y'all, welcome back to Homemade Simple. I am really excited about today's video. I have an extreme budget Thanksgiving edition. My goal is to make a full Thanksgiving dinner for 12 to 15 people for $25 or less. So I'm really excited to see if I can make that happen. It's going to be a lot of homemade and from scratch recipes. I'm excited to share those with you. I'm at Aldi. I'm going to go see what they have in stock. I'm hoping to find a good deal on turkey and get the rest of the fixings for our Thanksgiving meal. And then we're gonna head home and start making our recipes. Okay, so I've got all of our supplies that we need for our menu. Our menu is going to include a turkey. I got an 18-pound frozen turkey, a sweet potato casserole. We're going to make cornbread dressing and green beans. Also some homemade cranberry sauce that is really good, and we plan to have pumpkin pie for dessert. So I'm really excited to share these recipes with you, and I'm really excited to see if we can keep this under $25. Okay, let's start with the sweet potato casserole. I'm just going to peel and chunk these sweet potatoes, and then I'm going to rinse them and throw them in some water to boil. I have boiled the sweet potatoes. They are nice and soft, and so now I'm just mashing them. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of melted butter, 2 eggs, 1 cup sugar, 1/4 cup milk. That milk jar is way too full because that's what happens when you do it yourself. Sometimes you get a little overfilled. And 1 teaspoon plus or minus of vanilla. One day I'm gonna show y'all how to make this vanilla extract. So easy and so good. And then we're just gonna mix this all together. After it's mixed together, we're gonna put it in a casserole dish. Now that we've got all of the sweet potato mixture in the casserole dish, I'm going to mix together the toppings and then sprinkle it on top and throw it in the oven. For the topping, I have 1 cup packed brown sugar. To that, I'm gonna add 1/3 cup butter that's melted and 1/3 cup flour. I'm gonna mix all of this up and then crumble it on top. A lot of times people add pecans to the topping. I didn't do that for 2 reasons. One, when you're trying to save a little bit here and there, the nuts were just a good way to eliminate some of the expense, and also it's pretty common to have a nut allergy, and so that just avoids any kind of contamination or allergy issues. If you do want to put the nuts in, just be sure that you know your guests or ask them if they have some kind of nut allergy before you add that. So I'm just going to sprinkle the topping on top of the sweet potato mixture, and then this will bake in a 350 oven. I will check it after about 40 minutes. That looks really good. Okay, I'm gonna go throw this in the oven. Next, it's time to start on the cornbread dressing. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut up some onions and celery, then we'll start on the cornbread. All popcorn is non-GMO, so that's why I do this, because if you are to get organic cornmeal, it's going to be really expensive. But if you can find popcorn, and if you have a high-speed blender, then you can just pour the popcorn into the blender and blend the popcorn, and it mills it into cornmeal. So that's what I'm gonna do for our cornbread dressing. The first thing I have to do is make the cornbread, so I'm going to grind some of this popcorn into cornmeal. And after you sift it, it's just cornmeal ready for your cornbread. I've got my cornmeal ready. The first thing I'm gonna do is put some oil in each of these pans and put them in the oven while the oven is preheating to 425. That way the oil will be hot and the pans will be hot whenever it's time to pour the cornmeal batter in. I have a really bad habit of just eyeballing recipes and not measuring like I should. So I'm gonna see how much cornmeal this is. That's 2.5 cups of cornmeal. I'll add 1 cup of flour. That's regular all-purpose flour to that. 2 teaspoons of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of salt. I'll mix up those dry ingredients. I'm gonna add 4 eggs. I made my own buttermilk with Hazel's milk, but you can obviously just use store-bought. Just sort of mix however much it needs to be a good batter. If you need a good cornbread recipe, you probably should just look on Pinterest, because I'm thinking that maybe I'm not the best source for it. But I will show you what the consistency of mine looks like when I'm done, and then maybe you can just sort of model after that. That was probably a cup, maybe 1.5 cups. And then maybe 1/4 cup of oil. You're going to put the other oil in after it heats. So this is about what it should look like. Not runny, but wet. When the oven comes up to temperature, then I'll pour the hot grease in here, and I have kept a little bit of cornmeal to put into the bottom of the pan. That keeps it from sticking. And then we will bake the cornbread for about 25 minutes. Okay, the oven is preheated, so I'm gonna get the skillets out. Just roll it around and then pour it in. Okay, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of this cornmeal and sprinkle it on the bottom of the pan, and that just prevents it from sticking. Stir the oil in, and then this probably was not quite enough for 2 pans of cornbread. I'm just gonna cook it in this one pan. And however much dressing that makes, then that's what we're gonna go with. I'm gonna put this in the oven. Again, it's preheated to 425, and I'm gonna cook it for about 25 minutes. I'm gonna cook the celery and onions in this 2 tablespoons of melted butter until they're softened, and then I'm going to put the cornbread dressing together. I'm gonna crumble the cornbread into this bowl. Then I'm going to put in the sauteed celery and onions, 1/2 tablespoon of salt, 1/2 tablespoon of pepper, and I'm going to add chicken stock until it is well combined. A lot of times when we have dressing for Thanksgiving, it also has chicken in it. But again, if we're gonna try to cut our costs, the chicken is one area that we can save some money on our Thanksgiving meal budget, because we already have the turkey for our protein. So we don't really need chicken in our cornbread dressing. We just need the dressing. I'm gonna add 1 more cup. So that's gonna total 7 cups of stock. The stock, if you make it at home, doesn't cost anything. I just boiled the chicken for another meal and kept the stock. That's a good way for us to save on the expense of Thanksgiving, is to sort of think ahead and a week or so before have something with a boiled chicken, and then you can keep that stock and it will be just like turning water into chicken stock instead of having to buy the container of chicken stock at the store. And once we have that mixed together, we're gonna add 1 egg. Mix that in real good. If it looks like it still needs a little more broth, this is the time to add it. We'll add 1 teaspoon of sage. So I'm gonna put this in a 13 by 9 baking dish. Okay, just a second. Flatten it out. Throw it in the oven. Now it's time to make the cranberry sauce so that I can get it in the refrigerator and chilled before it's time for dinner. I'm gonna put 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar. I'm gonna bring that to a boil, and then I will add the cranberries. Now the sugar water is boiling, so I have rinsed and drained a 12-ounce package of fresh cranberries. And we're just gonna stir that in and cook them until the sauce begins to thicken. Okay, so this is done. It has boiled for about 7 to 8 minutes, and you can see that it has really thickened up. It will thicken up a lot more as it cools. So I'm going to put this in a bowl and put it in the refrigerator to chill. My kitchen is a huge mess right now, so maybe you can overlook that and just give me some grace because I've got all of this cooking going on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the turkey before we started preparing the turkey. Of course, the turkey is probably going to be the most expensive part of our Thanksgiving meal, and so looking at sale ads and circulars for your local grocery store starting now is going to be the best way for you to find the best deal available on your Thanksgiving turkey. 2 different stores in my area have turkeys on sale for 49 cents a pound. I mean, you can't even buy bananas for 49 cents a pound. So first of all, look at your circulars and go and buy the bird wherever it's cheapest. Second of all, get more than 1, because that is an excellent way to save on your food budget later on in December, when money is always tight at the end of the year, and this is an excellent opportunity for us to make our grocery budget stretch a little further on down the road. Second of all, if you are going to have a whole turkey for your Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to want to buy a turkey large enough for everybody to have 1 to 1.5 pounds. So they're not going to eat a pound and a half of turkey, but that's just factoring in the bones, of course. And so make sure that you get a turkey large enough for your party size. I'm making a turkey big enough for 12 to 15 people, and so I got an 18-pound bird. So just keep that 1 to 1.5 pound per person in mind, and that will help you know exactly how many pounds you need to buy. And the last thing is make sure sure you give yourself enough time for your turkey to thaw. You're not going to be able to find a great deal on fresh turkeys. So your turkey, if you're going to be on a budget, is going to be frozen when you buy it. It's going to take at least 4 days in the refrigerator to thaw. So you need to keep in mind how much time you have, and that will regulate how you're going to thaw your turkey. You can also thaw your turkey in water, but then you have to change the water every 30 minutes, and it's sort of extra work, and your sink is taken up while you're trying to do other things. So try to think ahead and try to manage your time wisely so that you have your turkey in your refrigerator 5 or 6 days ahead of time. That way it will be good and thawed whenever you're ready to put it in the oven and bake it for Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, so now after all of that is said, we're ready to put the turkey together. And this is super simple. This is going to make a moist turkey, but it's not going to be really labor intensive. Simple is the way to go, especially if you are not experienced with cooking turkey on a regular basis. I don't cook turkey, so I just want to find an easy way to get Thanksgiving dinner on the table without having a million different steps. So that's what this is going to be. It's going to be simple, affordable, easy, and then we will get everything together, and then we'll be ready to sit down for Thanksgiving dinner without having to beat the budget and without having to stress ourselves out with too much extra work. So this morning I chopped up the celery and onion for the dressing, and while I was doing that, I just used the discards of the celery so I could use that with the turkey. And also I cut up 2 really small onions, so 1 large onion or 2 small ones. And I'm just gonna sort of spread this out on the pan. I have patted the turkey dry, so make sure that when you put the turkey in here, it is not wet, not dripping. Okay, this is a huge turkey. The first thing we wanna do is fold the wing back underneath. So this might be a little hard, but you pick it up and just sort of stretch it back behind it, the neck area. Make sure that you've gotten the giblets and the neck bone out. I'm not doing anything with that, but you can make gravy with it or whatever if you want to. Okay, now he looks like he's good and relaxed. This is what we're going to baste the turkey with. Now that the butter is all melted, I'm going to take my fresh rosemary and I'm just gonna sprinkle it into the butter and mix it in. This will infuse the butter with the rosemary flavor. We're just gonna wait until the butter begins to brown, then we'll know that it's done. Now I'm going to take this butter and I'm going to baste the entire bird with this rosemary butter. Now that I've gotten the butter all over the turkey, I'm going to take these rosemary leaves that we cooked the butter in and I'm gonna put them inside. Also, I have mixed salt and pepper together and I'm just going to liberally sprinkle this on the outside and in the cavity. And the final step is to tie up the legs so that the cavity is pretty closed off. You can use cooking twine for this, you can use dental floss, just whatever you have on hand. So you want to cross it and tie it. This is easier said than done when your hands are sort of slimy from the butter. Just do the best you can. If you had 3 hands, that would be much easier, but that will just have to do. Okay, so Now it is seasoned, tied up, ready to go in the oven. My oven is preheated to 325, and we're gonna bake this for 15 minutes per pound. So I'm going to start the timer at about 3 hours, and then I'm gonna check the temperature. I wanna cook it until it gets 170. I decided to get frozen green beans. Sorry about the dog. She's tied up and she's not happy. You can get the store canned green beans. The best case would be to can your own. I didn't grow green beans last year, so I just went with the frozen green beans, but your choice. I'm going to add half of an onion and about a 1/4 cup olive oil, and then sprinkle salt according to your taste. I mean, I really dislike unseasoned green beans, so I'm gonna put extra, sort of smush everything down under water level. We're just gonna put this on the stove to simmer for 2 to 3 hours, and that will give it a lot of good flavor. I'm going to make the pie crust, and so I've cut up a 1/2 cup, 1 stick of cold butter, and to that I'm going to add 1 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon of fine salt. You can use a pastry blender for this, or you can just sort of incorporate it by hand. A food processor is also a good way to get that combined. Now I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of water. This is nice and cold. When you're working with pie crust, the colder you have your ingredients, the better. That was a little too much water, so I'm gonna add a little bit more flour. You don't wanna knead it much, but you do wanna get it incorporated and well mixed. Okay, I'm gonna sprinkle some flour on the counter and roll it out. Onto the rolling pin, bring our pie dish over and roll it back on. This is a deep dish, so we want to make sure that the pie crust goes all the way down in, and I sort of have a messed up part over on this side, so I'm going to take a little bit of the hangover over here and bring it over here to correct my mistake. I'll mix together the filling, and then we will cook the filling and the pie crust at the same time. Just crimp the edges. Honestly, I don't really know why you do this. I'm sure there's a reason, and I might very well not be doing it right, but. And then we'll poke some holes in the bottom to keep it from bubbling up. For the pie filling, we're gonna start by breaking 3 eggs into the bowl and scrambling them so that they will be good and scrambled before we add all of the other ingredients. To that, we're going to add 1 can of pumpkin puree. This is not pumpkin pie filling. You could get that, and then you wouldn't add the other spices. This is what we had on hand, so we're gonna use the puree, and then to the puree we're going to add 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. This is going to be the sweetener, so we're not going to add any more sugar. We'll mix that until that's well combined. And then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and 1 full teaspoon of ground cinnamon. We'll mix this until it is all incorporated completely, and then we will add it to our pie crust. Okay, we're gonna pour this, after it's well combined, pour that into our pie shell. We're gonna bake this in a 425 oven for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna reduce the temperature to 350 and check it in 30 more minutes. The turkey is done, and I feel like it turned out really beautiful. It was completely cooked through, and so now I'm going to take it out of the roast pan and put it onto the serving platter, and then get the rest of the sides ready. And the last thing we're waiting on is for the pie to finish, and then we'll be ready to eat. And here it is, all finished. A Thanksgiving dinner for 15 people, and it ended up costing $25.10. So the cost breakdown was $10.25 for the turkey. The sweet potato casserole ended up costing $3.90. The dressing came in at $3.35. The green beans were $3. The cranberry sauce was $1.25, and the pie was $3.50. So as you can see, you can have a wonderful Thanksgiving meal with all of your friends and family without busting the budget. I hope that this video inspires you to have a house full of friends and family this Thanksgiving and enjoy all of their company. I'm so thankful that you're here today. If you have enjoyed this video, I hope that you will subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you will be notified when new videos just like this are added to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I love you, and I will see you again next time.